Okay, so excuse my hair. I've been sick. I've been staying home. So in response to your reel that you sent me, where did all these religions come from? All these religions started way before Christianity. Christianity is a new religion. Christianity started when Jesus Christ. No Christ, no Christianity, right? Islam started with when Abraham was promised a child through Sarah. um, they got impatient and they had us, and so Sarah told Abraham, "Sleep with my concubine Hagar, and we could have a child." So that happened, and that son is was called Ishmael. That's where the nation of Islam comes in. Now, that being said, um, that was not the promise. Ishmael became the son under the law, not under the promise. Then Sarah got pregnant and she had Isaac. Okay? So Isaac was the promised child. And when when Isaac was born, that was the promise that God told Abraham and Sarah. But God told Sarah and Abraham that he would still bless both of them because they came from him, but they were going to be numerous. One of them was going to be as numerous as the sand. The other one is going to be numerous as the stars. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. So in the Bible, we learn that Hagar was asked to leave with Ishmael, and there was a cry in the wilderness, something like that. So Abraham went look for Hagar and the child, and Abraham allegedly, this is not in the Bible, allegedly that Abraham helped Ishmael build an altar where he could worship God. Okay, that's not in the Bible. That's what the Islam believe. What's in the Bible is that Abraham went and looked for the child because he was crying. Okay. Now, that being said, Abraham was told by God that he needed to sacrifice Isaac. So they went to Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah is where God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. It is believed that it is in that same mountain where Abraham built an altar with Ishmael to worship God. It is believed that that's the same place where King David was told by God to build his temple, but King David never built it because David had a lot of blood on his hands. So that being said, King Solomon built God's temple. What happened to that temple? It got destroyed, right? So it is believed that's where the the um, the mountain, the Holy of Holies place where people are fighting. I can't think of the top of my head, the Holy Dome or whatever it's called, because both religions believe that God honors the firstborn. Well, who's the firstborn? Ishmael or Isaac? Ishmael started with Islam, and Isaac's was where the Jews come from, right? So, but among all those two religions in that time, there were other religions, Buddhas, Hindus, they were all over the place. So everything, all these religions, Jews, Muslim, Hindus, Buddhas, they're all worshiping a God that they believe that they exist, but they never accept Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior. The reason is because this is my opinion, and this is what I've learned on all the stuff that I read, that if you read the Bible, God in the Old Testament, he's a vicious God. You don't want to mess with him. He is vicious. He will destroy nations. He doesn't care. He will destroy nations. We read it, right? So to become closer to God, to see him, nobody can see him, not even Moses, because God himself, God the Father, what's that word I'm looking for? He expects perfection. He wants perfection. Everything that he does needs to be completely perfect. Nobody goes into heaven unless we are perfect. If we are not perfect, we cannot go into heaven. Not the Muslims, not the Jews, not the Hindus. Nobody can enter heaven unless you're completely perfect, because God is perfect. And guess what? That's where Jesus comes in. Because in the Old Testament, we read that we all have heard eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right? So if you poke an eye, then they're gonna poke an eye off you, right? So keep that in mind. So God's first creation was human, was Adam. Sin came through a man. Remember, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Sin came through a man, and it had to leave through a man. That's the whole thing, right? So, but because God demands perfection, Jesus became the perfect lamb for the sacrifice of human mankind. And he descended after the 3 days. And if you read the Bible in the New Testament, a little bit of a history, the kings and queens and leaders of big empires back in the days, whenever they would have dinner, they would have a handkerchief, right? A handkerchief. And if they had to get up and use a restroom, or because they would eat for hours, right? They would fold the handkerchief and leave it there, symbolizing to the servants, this is my spot, don't take it, I'm going to be back. So when Jesus Christ was crucified in our place for perfection, he resurrected on the third day, and it says in the Bible that his garments were folded. He's a king, symbolizing, I'll be back. I'll be back. So all these other religions, Buddhism never talk bad about Jews. Jews never talk about Buddhism, and all these other religions always attacked Christianity because they cannot understand the perfection of Jesus Christ. But why so many Christian religions? Enemy, evil spirits, Catholicism, Protestants, non-denominational, Mormons, Jehovah's Witness. We all read from the same Bible. I believe that nobody has a problem with Jesus Christ. Nobody. They have a problem with Christianity for that same reason. I could go on and on, but that's pretty much the answer to your, I hope that was the answer you were looking for. I hope I didn't confuse you.